Okay, we'll be talking mostly about science writing and how does language affect that. Okay, let me just ask you. I think all of you are from various parts of the country, so you will easily identify this language. Can somebody who identifies this language tell me what language is this? Anyone?
Telugu,
Telugu? Okay.
Kannada.
Anyone else?
Tamil, sir, Tamil.
Tamil. Okay.
Tamil.
Kannada, sir.
Kannada.
Okay. So now you see, we can't identify what language is that. The script is there. The language we cannot identify. Even those people who know Kannada or even those people who know Telugu cannot identify this. This is neither Telugu nor Kannada. All that is, it is in English language. Only the script that I had used was a different one. So the first lesson that we need to understand is that the writing or the text or the pictures that we write down on a paper have nothing to do with the language. The language is sound. Basically, it is the sound, and the sound is represented as letters here. So, we need to first understand that any language that we speak represents a sound, and a sound represents a concept or an idea, and that is what it is. Now, what is a sound? Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
What language was that? Hello?
The voice was very low actually.
Okay, now? Can you hear?
No, sir.
No. I think my speaker is fine.
Uh,
Okay.
Somebody is able to hear? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So, what language was that song? Hello?
The song was not audible earlier.
Song was not audible. Okay, okay. Right. So I could hear that. Okay. So it was Kolavaridi. I think probably all of you have heard that song, right? Kolavaridi. And if you have heard, what language is that song?
Tamil and
English and Tamil.
Tamil. So how many of you are Tamil and how? It is not Tamil. Actually, every word that is there in the song is English. Have you noticed?
Yes, sir.
So you see, a English language spoken in a tone that is Tamil makes us understand that it is a Tamil language. Okay, but equally well, the Tamilians as well as Hindi people or a person like me who knows a little bit of Tamil but a lot of Hindi can understand that, and that is what language is. Language is sound. Sound represents an idea, and that idea is represented in terms of a sequence of sounds, and this sequence of sounds are written down like what we have on your screen right now. I think most of you can understand these two paragraphs. If, because we are not in a classroom, let me just read out a few of these sentences. The pharmacological variety of gonotoxins, diverse peptides found in the venoms of marine cone snails is well recognized. Venoms from each of the estimated 500 species of cone snails contain 50 to 200 distinct biologically active peptides. Most conotoxins characterized to date target receptors and ion channels of excitable tissues such as ligand gated nicotinic acetylcholine. I will stop here. I think most of you can understand this language, right? So this is English. Are you sure this is English?
Yes.
Yes. So this is English. So how, if this is English, why are we struggling to tell people about science? Why did Dr. Parashar as well as Dr. Manoj Pateria and Dr. Rashmi asked us to communicate or write in English, in simple English? What does that mean? What is simple English and what is this English? This is a question that we need to ask. Okay, and to ask that, let me just talk to this lady. One example I am just giving you. Now suppose we ask this lady that we'll get you a pizza. What can she imagine? She probably will imagine that we are bringing her something to eat, the one that is shown here. And let me just say, just pizza. Maybe, but the thing is, if I say pizza, she will not understand anything about that. Because unless she has seen a pizza, she will not have a concept of what is a pizza. Okay? Then what do I do to make her understand what I am trying to give her? Probably I will say there is a round one. And then when I say it is a round dish, immediately she will probably imagine a roti. Maybe a tandoori roti or a naan, anything like that. No, that is not clearly what I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell her that yes, I want to give you a pizza, but still I am not able to do it. So then I will have to do one more effort. I would say yes, pizza, it is a round one and made from atta. And then now, yes, she gets a little closer. And where? To puri. Maybe she imagines puri. It is round, made from atta or roti. So still again, she doesn't understand what a pizza is. So then I will say it is very thick. Very thick can also be naan. So it is not actually what I wanted to convey to her. And so unless I show her the pizza, probably she will not be able to understand clearly what pizza is. So what do we understand? We may be talking to her in her own language, and yet we will not be able to communicate to her because the first and foremost thing is that she has not experienced the things that we are talking about. She has not seen the pizza, or she has not made a pizza or anything like that. So, one of the important things that we need to understand in science communication is that we are about concepts, about ideas which they cannot easily sense. We know we have five senses. If I say that uh, the iron is hot, immediately we know that iron is hot. So sometimes the iron may be red hot, or sometimes the iron may not be red hot, but we don't have to touch that and understand. But if I say that the universe is too huge, it is difficult for us to imagine how huge it is. And this is what the science does. Science has a different ideas. Ideas are knowledge that has been created or gathered using things other than our five senses. And that is one of the reasons why it is very difficult for us to communicate to people about the difficult concepts of science. And why does that happen? One is this, that we cannot easily sense whatever we see. For example, if I say that there is a cell in each of our, so there are millions of cells in our body. Yeah, for us who have already learned biology, it is easy to understand. But for a person or even a small child, it is very difficult to understand because he doesn't know what a cell is. The concept of cell is still a strange thing to him. I will like to give another example. Probably if you have a kid under 3 years of age in your home, anybody who looks like me will be a grandfather to him. He doesn't distinguish between his grandfather and a person, a stranger, an old man like me. He will even consider every old man as his grandfather, mainly because that is what he has learned. In Kannada, we call it as Ajja, and or in Tamil, we call it as Pata or Pati. So, what happens is that at that age, the association is only between an object and a sound. But as we grow older, we try to associate much further. So then we understand that a father's father is a grandfather and not every old man with a gray hair. This concept, for the children to understand, it takes some time. And a similar thing happens with science. When we say something and the words may not mean anything unless they come from their own life's experience. And how do we take? So the next step that we have to take is how do we take the things that people don't sense or find in their routine life into their life? That is popular science. And the problem lies here. Okay, this is what Shakespeare wrote, not I. And what Shakespeare said is that a primrose by the river's brim was but a dicotyledon to him and nothing more. And dicotyledon to whom? To a scientist. Okay, we all know what a dicotyledon is. It is a lentil, and for others, it is a lentil. For us, it is a dicotyledon. This difference is what makes science a little strange or a distant object for commoners. Okay, science doesn't use a different language. It is a different language, is what Shakespeare says, and I agree with him. Okay, but it was not always like this. The science was not always spoken in such kind of a tough language, what we consider today as tough language. It was always in the commoners language. If you go back to 500 years ago, when Galileo wrote his first book in Italian, it was written in a very simple, common language, Italian language, and it was translated into many European languages later. But subsequently, it was at a time when the Latin, like we have a Sanskrit here for the Vedas and other things, and Europe had Latin and Greek as the language for the academics, and it was any question there? Okay, it changed, and therefore Galileo was the first one to start talking about this. And what do we mean by the language, commoners language? Commoners language doesn't have these kind of problems. Okay, the science language is tough because it has certain qualities which make readability very difficult. And these are some of them. This is not a complete list, but some important things are nominalizations. Then each of the sciences have their own dictionaries or their own lexicon or a set of words or the vocabulary, and then they use a different kind of syntax, and then they use a lot of symbolic and pictorial text which is not seen in any other kind of text, whether it is sociology or literature. You won't find these. Okay, I won't say that sociology text or economics text or literature text are simple texts. There also academic texts are equally difficult to understand for the commoners. So there also we call it as knowledge texts. All these knowledge texts have a problem that they have their own set of vocabulary which is very distant from the ones that we use in our day-to-day life. Incidentally, have you thought how many words we use in a day? How many types of words or how many words we need to live by? We don't need an Oxford dictionary or a Webster's dictionary. If you have about 3,000 words, that is more than enough. And the 3,000 words is for a language that is highly evolved. And if you talk about a language which has not yet evolved, and you need only about 60 words, 60 words that describe a few objects around you or a few activities that you do. Say, for example, sleep, get up, run, sit, eat, drink. So these are some of the actions and therefore action describing verbs. And similarly, the tree, the sky, the earth, the water. So these are some of the words. So roughly around 60 words are enough to have a proto-language. And that is the language. But look at what we are doing with science. We have more words than we can use. And that is the issue here. What do I mean by nominalization? This is present not only in English but everywhere. Okay. Now, blastula is an object, but then the formation of blastula is known as blastulation. We make it that way. So, translate is a verb. You translate certain thing, and translation becomes a nominalized verb. And this nominalization or making things into noun forms is one of the what I should I say the chief characteristic of science, or it is an exclusive. It is not exclusive to science, but this is one of the things that we find very commonly in this, and that affects the readability many times. And in Hindi also we follow this. For example, Nagarikaran. I don't know whether you use this or not. In Kannada we use, if we want to say urbanization, urban is one adjective, but when we want to say that the whole thing is becoming urban like, we put it into a single word called urbanization. Now when we use urbanization, people who know that the process of a urban formation of an urban region will understand what urbanization means. But a person who doesn't understand that, for him it becomes a technical word. So this is one of the things. Shall I ask you one question? Any of you can answer. What is it that is most important when you write science? Technical words? Without technical words, can we write science? Can we talk about science? And what are technical words? Hello? Hello? Any of you? Yes, Nita.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, please.
Good morning, sir.
Hello. Yes, we lost you. Okay. So if we think that it is the technical words that are the hindrance to this, I would say partially that is correct, not entirely. Okay. We'll come to that next. Okay. So what is the unique lexicon or the vocabulary that affects? You look at this thing. This is from biology, and the transfection, confocal image, immunofluorescence, or conjugate. These are all taken from one single paper. So I'm not taking it from a dictionary. It is all from a one single paper published in eLife, and so therefore you can see that how dense these words are. Okay, in one sentence, if you use transfection, confocal image, immunofluorescence, and conjugate, how can a person understand this? And the technical words are very specific, or those words which have very specific meaning. And I can give you an example for technical word. Probably maybe gulab jamun. Do you think gulab jamun is a technical word? Hello?
So somebody is responding on the chat box also, sir.
Okay. Chat box I have not opened because I am not able to see the chat box here.
Sir, it's sentence.
No.
Is gulab jamun a technical word?
So everybody is answering no.
Everybody is answering no. Okay. Is dosa a technical word? Is pancake a technical word? If the answer is no, I would say
There.
okay. This is the distinction between there is a distinction between a technical word and yeah, there is a noise. Somebody has to unmute. Somebody has unmuted. Okay. Okay. So most of the answers are no.
No.
Dosa is to some people is technical word. Similarly, pancake is a technical. We call this as when there is a difference between the culture, and because of the cultural influence, if we cannot understand a word or a word is from a different culture, we call them as jargon. Okay, but when the jargon comes from science, we call it as technical. It has a very specific meaning and a very narrow meaning. And for example, when I say sun is a source of energy, okay, now you have two words there which are highly technical. One is the sun. We know what sun is, who sun is, and everything, but still the energy linked to that word or in that sentence makes it highly technical. Sun is a common verb, but here the sun means that it is an object which gives energy, not a sun as an object that we see here. Okay, so therefore it becomes a technical word. Similarly, energy is a technical word. Okay, these are two words which we need to use, just like pizza. Pizza is a technical word because you cannot describe it in any other way. It has a name and specific, and therefore it is pizza. And pizza topped by various type of toppings is a different thing. So pizza base is one, pizza is another one, and pizza topping is this. So the technical words have very narrow and specific meaning. So if you think that the entire science writing is only of technical words, then that is not correct, because we don't use too many technical words. Okay. The second problem that we face is the sentences are almost always passive. It is not direct sentence. Okay. For Indians, most of us, we use direct sentences. मैं घर से आया, मैं खाना खा के आया. Okay, that is how we make ourselves expressive and reach out to people. But if you say khana in English, if I say that food was eaten by me, okay, that is fine, grammatically 100% correct, but it doesn't become as intimate as we say I ate food. And this passive sentence is rampant in almost all our writings. Take out any of the science papers, the writing is passive. Can we make them active? So if we consciously make these things active, 50% of the problem of popularizing science or writing a popular science becomes easier. Okay, why? Because you may ask me a question, why are we writing in this kind of a language? It is because the times have changed. Galileo is not working alone. Galileo is also working with a lot of other people. Science is done in a team, and nobody wants to say that, okay, it is done by only this person or that person. So there is a leader, of course, but it is a teamwork. And since it is a teamwork, most of the time we don't want to give credit to one person or the other person, make one bigger and the other one smaller. So most of the papers don't refer to any person. So they become impersonal totally. And when this impersonal thing happens, we automatically start writing in a passive voice. Okay. And then we have the co-jointed words. I have a quiz here. You can give me the number. You can read this sentence and give me the number of words that are there. I have also given 4 answers because we are very fond of objective type of questioning these days. So we have 3, 7, 14 and 16 answer. You can lock in one of the answers which you feel is correct, and how many words are there in this green sentence. I hope you all can see this. Yes, Huda? 16. Sixteen. Oh, okay. 14. So when I say, if my tone is 16, then automatically it becomes 14. 7. Okay. How many are there? OR83B protein kinase C or PKC is one word. Phosphorylation mutant is another word. M1, M2 and or co. PKC synthetic gene is another word. So now we know how many are there. 7. We discount and war. So these are the kind of sentences we use. So these are called co-jointed words. A lot of words, noun words, verbs are joined together, and unless you know what is OR83B protein kinase C and phosphorylation, how does it function, we will not be knowing about M1 and M2. This is the kind of sentences we write, whether it is biology. Biologists are much more, the greater culprits in doing this than physicists. And physicists have a different kind of language. The best language I like most of the is geology, which is a much simpler except for technical things. And what do chemists and physicists do? They do this. Qualities, they use a lot of pictorial or symbolic or what we call as shorthand language. And this is something, the text doesn't explain everything, but there is only part of that depicted as a picture. And for a common reader, you also have to explain what is in the picture. Without that, if you do, then the things will not be right. Okay. And then, of course, these are pictures. And how do you simplify this? Is a challenge. Unless you have to refer to these structures in a popular science article, you just have to write the names, nothing else, unless it is very required. Say, for example, if we are talking about glucose, and if we are talking about fructose, what does fructose have? Or what does glucose have? The difference between those two structures, if we are talking about, then probably we may have to explain some of these things. But otherwise, it is not necessary. We can just go with the word that glucose is a molecule that gives an energy, or we will have to explain. Okay. Then the next tough part is the abbreviation. Abbreviation is, of course, Dr. Pateria gave my name as A.S. KVS Sharma, probably because he forgot my full name, or maybe he didn't have time to tell my name. Okay, my name is Ambale Srikantan Kalyana Venkata Subramania Sharma, which is there on the first slide. and it is always necessary that we need to abbreviate. And Dr. Pateria and Dr. Nakul Parasha, they all abbreviate it much further, A to Z. Yeah, but then the abbreviations are again one more thing that we find in most of the writings. There are two types of abbreviations. One is the universal abbreviation. Universal abbreviation is like DNA, which almost forms a part of your dictionary. So you know what DNA is, or um, the DNA, whether it is present in your paper or somebody else's paper, it means the same thing. But there are also temporary or transitory abbreviations, like my name. So when somebody refers to me in the paper, then he may say that A to Z Sharma. So it doesn't give the complete description of Sharma, but it just refers to that. Okay, and in the entire text that may be there. And here we have similar things. Take for example, PLC is a transitory or transient or a temporary. It is not a universal abbreviation. Similarly, PKC. These are used for convenience. One question that we may have to ask is, should we use these things regularly in our paper? Nobody asked that question because maybe the word length limits it or something else, but we tend to use a lot of abbreviations in our science writings. And in popular science writings, abbreviations, except for universal things like millimeter, mm, or DNA, or some such RNA, these kind of universal abbreviations, other abbreviations are hindering, they will be hindering the readability of this. There is one nice analysis of what kind of features that define a scientific text. Okay. Now, more of these kind of properties that you find in a scientific text, it is highly technical. So the lesser of this, then it becomes much easier to understand for a commoner. And what do they mean? I gave you a reference in the first two paragraphs in this in the beginning. Uh, there was a sentence: ligand-gated ion channels. How many physics students are here? How many physics students? Can somebody explain what this is? Ligand-gated ion channels. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, ligand-gated ion channels are the channels that are regulated by ligands. Like if the ligand is present, they will bind to the ion channel and then it will open. The channel will open up on the if it is present on the plasma membrane, and then the ions can flow inside.
Okay. Now, you are a biology or physics?
Biology.
Biology. I wanted the physics person to explain this anyway. Now you see, when you try to explain this ligand-gated ion channels, okay, for these 4 words, you had to use at least 5 sentences. This is how we write in science. A lot of these concepts, especially the concepts behind this, ligand is one concept, and ligand gate is another concept, ion channel is a third concept. We bring them all together, make it into a dense, complex word, and say that ligand gated ion channel. And for a biologist, it is very easy. So he immediately understand that on the cell membrane, there is a molecule which attaches to that, and therefore the ion channel opens. Okay, and how does the ion channel open? The mechanism is different. And what ion channel? It could be calcium, it could be potassium, it could be sodium, anything. Okay, so the entire concept of that knowledge is what do I say, compacted into these four words here. Now, these kind of usages we will have to explain to the people who are not from biology. Why I asked whether somebody from physics can explain this is it is not enough if I have a PhD to understand a scientific text. I need to understand the subject. I need to be in that field because each of us, the physicists have their own language, chemists have their own language, biologists have their own language, and even among the biologists, if you ask evolutionary biologists, they have their own language, and molecular biologists, they have their own language. Among the molecular biologists, we have subdivisions, their language is different. So, these kind of community formation of language is what hinders us. Now, if I can speak to a physicist about what I do as a biologist, it will be much, much easier. This interdisciplinary linkages also is important. Most of the time that is not there, and therefore we tend up into using these kind of. Interestingly, this paper what I am quoting here was from a very senior scientist, and they invited me to give a talk on how to communicate in Kannada, okay, or translate the English into Kannada language. Now, I use this to explain to them that it is not just translating from English to Kannada that we need to do. We need to do it from science to English, or science to Kannada, or science to Hindi, or science to Telugu. Now, this concept, when I started telling her and quoted from her papers, she was really surprised. And she said, no, I never thought that I am doing these mistakes. And these are mistakes, of course, but these are not considered as a mistake as long as you write these in this kind of a language, in such language, in a peer-reviewed journal. But these are mistakes when you write for a newspaper or when you write for some other thing, because the newspapers cater to a larger audience, and it is not very specific to only biologists or a physicist or somebody else. So the language has to be too general. That's it. Secondly, you can see the next sentence there. There are what is called as taxonomics in technical words. So sometimes they say relatively low sensitivity exhibited. What does that mean? Low sensitivity. How low is that? It is, first of all, we are introducing a concept which is very difficult, and then we are adding these kind of uncertainties into that. So we can avoid these things in our popular science writings. And I will not go into all of these things. There is one important thing that we need to note. These are, you can note down and you can find out all these things in your write-ups. Many of these things create a hindrance to reading. How many of you can read 10 papers at a stretch, research paper? Why is it difficult to read 10 research papers at a stretch? Whereas you can read Harry Potter, 600 pages in one day, which is not possible with any textbook. Why is that? The problem is our mind has to exert a lot more to deconstruct these kind of, or to simplify these kind of construct sentences, and that is why we get tired when we start reading this. So there is a different way of reading. I read about 20 to 25 research papers from different fields every day. That is because I have to produce a podcast every night. The podcast is about 10 minutes, so therefore I have to look for a story, I have to look for a subject, I have to look for information. So I do a lot of reading, and there is a knack or a technique of doing these things also. So let's find out some other time when we can discuss. But it is really straining when you start reading these kind of technical literatures. Okay. So what should I remember before I start writing for common people? One, I'm not going to give you why we need to communicate to common people, All those things probably the others have already said in the previous seminars, or as Dr. Nakul Parashar and Dr. Manoj Pataria has said, it is one of the important imperatives that the government also says. And the second thing is, we will be always happy telling people about what we do. Okay, so therefore, even if I cook a recipe, then if trying to explain the recipe itself is an enjoyable exercise, so let's assume that this is an enjoyable exercise. And if I start doing this, what should I keep in mind? One, yes, I avoid all those language problems that I spoke in the previous this one, and then I want to be accurate. So the concept has to be clear to the other one. If I'm speaking about a tree, the target should not think that it is a small plant. So the clarity of expression should be there. Then the second thing is the language should be natural. In the sense, it should be a simple English. If I start talking in a very complex language, you know, to everyone, then people will not even come to listen to any of my talks. Okay, so it should be conversational as much as possible. Limit your vocabulary to maybe around 5,000 or 6,000 words, then it will be fantastic writing. Then the third thing is communicative. So you must keep, what do I mean by communicative? Everything that I write may not be read by everyone. Okay, there are reasons. Some people would like to read only specific topics. Some people would seek certain information. Then they will find whatever information. But in most of the cases, if it is attractive, if it is communicative, if it is interesting, people start reading. So as far as possible, we should keep the reader in mind. And then what do I mean by keeping a reader in mind? It is like explaining the pizza to the old lady. The old lady, we should understand that she doesn't understand this. She is not exposed to this. Her understanding will be different. So can we go to that level of understanding and then explain to her what pizza is? And that is communication. Okay. But then there are several challenges. I have simplified my language and everything, but still there are challenges. The challenges are these. One is the jargons, then neologisms and euphemisms and abbreviations. I will not talk about abbreviations, we have discussed that. But what are jargons? Jargons need not be always technical words. Okay. Now I have a word here, translation. Very simple word. And it forms a highly technical word in medicine or biology. Okay. Translational science is a very specific subject. Or if it comes to literature, the translation assumes a different meaning. And in case of chemistry, translation talks about the structure of the molecule. In case of mathematics, it is a operation, a process. So each of these is different. Now, when I want to write something about this, if I simply say translation, probably people will not understand. So we will have to explain to them. And since most of you are from different languages, and I presume many of you would like to write in your mother tongue, then we need to look at these things. Don't ever try to do the mistakes that many of us did, like creating a new word for each of these things. It is better to explain rather than creating a new technical word for every technical word that we find in English. So this is one caution that we have to keep in case of this. Jargons need not be unfamiliar words. They can be very familiar words. At the same time, they can be jargons. There are other examples that I have here. Now, model, translation, reading, expression, cry, cap, family, clade, development, culture. These are all words that are used in our routine vocabulary. Okay, the model is not Aishwarya Rai or Sushmita Sen or anybody, or what's his name, the most popular male model. So it is not that. The model is an organism that is designed for a specific type of study. So how does a common person understand this? When I say that we have done an experiment in rat model, I can easily translate that in either Hindi or Kannada or Tamil by creating a word for the model. But then, does it convey the meaning of what model is? This is the question. Similarly, family is a concept in taxonomy. How do we uh, convey this meaning to them? Okay, and these are the kind of problems that we face when we read a text and then try to write that in a simple language. But there are solutions. There is no. Then neologism is another thing. This is very very important in for biologists because every other day every biologist creates a new word and he will not even look at whether the similar word for a similar concept a word has already been existing or not, and he will not even look at that. He would like to create a new word and he will create. Okay, this creates a lot of problems. So when I was in post graduation doing MSc in genetics, the gene had a different concept. And today, the gene has an entirely a different idea. So the ideas, the word may be the same, but over the years, the concepts have changed. So now, which concept should I talk about to my readers? Do I talk about today's or do I talk about 60 years ago what the concept of gene? Okay, this is the question that we will have to ask many times. The other problem is we create a lot of subdivisions, proteome, lipidome, genomics. So I always call it as home science. You go to any biology lab, they do omics and a lot of omics. They have lipidomics, metabolomics. Metabolomics is a new one, and a lot of these things. Why do we create these kind of words? And should we use these words in the common for the common people when we talk about these things? I don't think that is required. So therefore, we need to look for these kind of words in this. And we are not the only scientists are not the only ones who create these kind of words. You can also look at others. Like prostitute is a word created by trawlers, and yes, similarly in economics, in sociology also new words are created like this, but this neologism is extremely um, strong in science subjects. Okay, the other thing is euphemism. Euphemisms are a sort of a metaphor that we use in our scientific texts. If you look at this, it is expressed in large basic conic sessilla and is tuned to fruit volatiles. Okay. Now, what does this mean by tuned to? So this is something. So we are talking here about nerve cells which identify specific frequencies or which respond to specific frequencies of sound or specific compounds. Okay. Now, when that is the case, we are talking about fruit volatiles, and these sensilla or the nerve cells are tuned to only these specific fruit compounds. Tuned to means they respond only to these specific compounds. But when we use this euphemism, tuned to, and we use the same thing in our regular day-to-day language, it doesn't make sense. And therefore, we need to keep track of these kind of euphemisms in any of our writings. If you are going to do that, please change that in your popular science writing. Abbreviations, local and contextuals, we have discussed. But then in the physics and technology, we have the other problem. So these are some of the words which are common words with special meaning. Like mouse, you have it is a device. Strange, up, down, spin, or properties. I have already discussed about translation, capping, and all. Now, these kind of words also, when we say spin, okay, a common person will think that something is spinning, okay, like a top. And that is the immediate concept that goes to his mind. We'll have to caution the reader, we'll have to caution the audience that when I say strange, it is not spinning, it is not the movement that I am speaking about, but it is the response of the particle to any magnetism. Okay, it's a property, it is its response to an influence. So this we will have to make it very clear there. So these kind of problems are always associated with the technical things. Now we have come to this, but then how do we write? Okay, so Dr. Rateria said writing is something. When I say popular science, I always consider these 3 points very important. One is the format, the style, and the content. Okay, the content of course can be only two. It can be science or non-science. Okay, non-science we are not bothered about because we are talking about science. So anything that contains a bit of science is what we are worried about. So the content can be science. It can talk about anything with a explaining the science of that particular. It can be dosa also. So why not dosa can have, or gulab jamun or pizza? They also have science. So anything talking, science content should be about the science. Then the style. Style is something that is individualistic. Okay, we may write the about the same topic, but each of our writing will be different. The same way that each of us speak differently. Some of us make a lot of jokes. Some of us, like me, are very serious. Some of us can analyze and do a lot more things. So each of them will be different. So these styles also appear in our writings. So the style has a different components. Most of them are the vocabulary that you use, the way you engage your readers, that is the way you write, put together different paragraphs. These are the ones which define your style. But the most other important factor that we need to look at is what kind of format that we use. There are different formats. You can talk about your work as an essay, a simple essay, or you can talk about you can create a review. But for Hauser, probably review is not accepted. You can write a poem. Who stops? But the problem with Hauser is that Hauser wants 1300 words. So 1300 words long poem is a bit difficult. So therefore, I would suggest keep it for a longer time, keep it for a later time, and let us not look into this. Fiction, yes, fiction can be done. A short fiction or a novel with the science content is possible. You can look at that also. Then news report is what generally people try to write, or a feature article. Now, what is the difference between a news report and an article? A news report usually uh, they call it as of a. If you remove the first paragraph, everything is lost. Okay, the use almost everything that is contained in the later part of this. So when I say today DST organized, or I will put it what is happening today as this. In a DST organized webinar, Sri A.S. KVS Sharma gave a lecture on writing science with a focus on the language which affect the writing. Okay, and that explains everything. Where did he do? When did he do? How did he do? What did he do? So the 5 W's: what, when, who, where, these are the things, and how. So these 6 are answered in the first paragraph. And then subsequently each paragraph is linked to another one. The first paragraph is linked to second, the second will be linked to third, and then you have when you come to the end, you give a synopsis in a nice way. So this is how usually a news report is written. The feature is different. Feature is a story. Now, what is the difference between a narration and a story? Okay. Now, narration is this. I ate dosa. Simple. Okay. I ate dosa is a simple statement. But when I say I ate a very tasty dosa, or when I say I tasted dosa, it was wonderful. Okay. We have conveyed the same thing in a different way, which is more intimate. So it catches the reader's attention. If the act of one person eating dosa is stated as he ate dosa, that is a very simple statement which can go in a news report. But in a feature, then how did he eat will also become a very important. He picked up a piece and took a long time to gulp it down. Now, why did he do? Either he is not able to eat or he is enjoying the taste of that. So you add one more sentence there. The taste was so good that he took a long time to gulp it down. Now, that gives a additional information about the dosa. Can we do this with science? Definitely we can do this with science. Wherever it is possible for science to bring it closer to the audience, we can use anecdotes, we can use proverbs, we can use poetry that is already known to the people, then engage with the audience and then start talking about science that we have. That's what I do in features. And an article is in between a news report and a feature. Okay. So how do we start writing? Okay. Yeah, it's going to be time for lunch. Now, can somebody say what are here? Hello? What is in this? What is here? What is here? What is here?
These are different types of food.
I want each of them.
Puri sabzi, kanda sabzi, dosa, and idli.
Dosa and idli. Okay, now this is what I wanted. Okay, fine. You see, we always define a thing with the major content. Okay. Now there is a puri here. There is sabji here. There are two sabjis. There is onion. There is pickle. Okay. And we have here paratha. We have sabji, two types of sabji, three types of one day chutney. And again, there is something here, salad. And we have chai. We never mentioned chai. Okay. And here idli. And there are other things also. Here dosa, vada and other things. We never mentioned vada. Okay. Now, this is what we have to do when we start writing about our science. Okay. There is only one point that we need to talk about, the focus, the fulcrum, around which other things are there. We have a dosa, around which a lot more things will be there. We have an idli, around which a lot more things will be there. We have a puri, around which a sabji and other things are there. We have a paratha, around which a lot more other things are there. But then, when we identify that, it is only the major portion, the focus. So, every science article should talk about one or at the most 2 points which are important. Everything else should be supportive to that. Now, what do I mean by that? If I start writing about dosa, then I would start with dosa only and then say that how dosa's taste is affected by others. So the whole focus will be on dosa, whole focus will be on idli, whole focus will be on puri. Unfortunately, when we start technical writing in a technical format, we don't write in this way. It is not compact like that. If you look at the introduction part of any research paper or the materials and methods part of any paper, each sentence is not linked to the next one. They are separate. Okay, they do not have that kind of a continuity that we find in a very nicely written news report, and that is important for us. Focus on only one thing. Rest of the things are only additions to that, not the absolute necessity. So absolute necessity is what you need to do this. And an absolute necessity focus point will have very few technical words. That makes it easier for us to write. I would have loved to give you demonstrations of writing here, but that needs a lot of engagement between me and you. That is a difficulty. So now, how do we construct an article? One of the things that we need to do is identify the focus, what we want to talk about. Okay, maybe we want to talk about dosa. Okay, then you make a map of what do I mean by map. You think of dosa or your research, any of these research. Say, for example, you are working on cholesterol's effect on the mitral valve of heart. Okay, that is your focus. Now, what are these other things that are related to this? Can you jot down as a plan? And here I give an example of dosa. If I have an example dosa, then it could be boiled rice, it could be rice, it could be these are the things that come to the mind. Jot it down, then see how you can link them up into paragraphs one by one. And remember that you have to keep the format in your mind. If it is a news report, then the 5 W's and 1 H in the first paragraph, and then linking up the other paragraphs to that. So if I am talking about that, then I would say that a masala dosa was prepared today in the kitchen of Vigyan Prasar to serve 200 people. Okay, now the whole thing is done. You don't have to read the further. But then if you want to know more details, then you will go further, and we say the dosa was prepared with a batter made 2 days ago. Okay, but stored in a fridge so that it doesn't ferment too much. And now you are giving further details. Okay, and because a highly fermented dosa may become very sour, but this dosa was not like this. And then you can add to the dosa's flavor. We had masala along with that. The masala with potato and onion was prepared fresh. Now you see, I'm making a report. The first paragraph is over, and the other paragraphs you can always remove, but still you carry the thing. And when you go like this, and at the end, what do you say? So to sum up, we ate dosa. No, but that is the way that we usually write. But if you want to keep the reader engaging, you will always say, maybe I would put it this way, that yeah, at last there was one satisfaction and a burp. Stop. So that is how we can construct things. It's not very difficult to write science or popular science. It's only that we need to change a little bit ourselves to see that we use the same language that we use when we speak to our peer groups, not in the classroom, in our routine life. And the problem for us comes because we speak Hindi or Telugu or Kannada or Tamil at home and speak English when we want to discuss science. And if you can discuss science even in Kannada or Hindi, it will be fantastic. We will be easily able to communicate that in that language. And since that is not possible, so we try to translate. So translating is a problem most of the time. So instead of translating, try to tell in English what you are trying to do. That's it. And that will make the science article simple at the same time engaging. Okay. There are two books that if you can have an access to this, it will be good. The other book, The Science Terms Made Easy, is a fantastic book that gives you the roots of Greek and Latin languages from which most of the science words are created. Okay, so once you understand that, it is easier for us to also imagine what kind of a word that is, what concept it is, and then do that. The other one, Making Sense of Science, gives us an understanding. There are many other references also which I can give you, but I think The Science Terms Made Easy is one of the best ones. If you have an access to that, it will give you an easy understanding or easy tool to simplify your concepts. Okay. Last, difficulties in life is absolutely necessary, like what we are now facing, the COVID. Okay. Without COVID, probably I would not have been able to talk to all of you. I would have talked to only 10 of my students here, and then would have been satisfied with that. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I thank Dr. Nakul Parashar and Dr. Manoj Pateria for giving me this opportunity to say a few words about what the language of science is. And all of you can get in touch with me at any time. My email is very simple, kollegala@gmail.com, KOLLEGALA @gmail.com, and you can consult me for any of your difficulties. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, welcome.